I want your thoughts on a point that Ashish raised on thematic funds, and that's been the biggest trend of the mutual fund industry this year, right? There have been funds on defense, funds on consumption, funds on, any and every theme that you can perhaps even imagine. Now, what are your thoughts? Because in some cases, when the themes are extremely niche and narrow, like PSU or defense, the drawdowns and the fall in stock prices has been severe as well. So will this scare away people, or do you think the investors have matured enough? Your thoughts on thematics?
So I don't have a problem with thematic funds, but I think our definition of thematic funds has, evolved to be too narrow. In the old parlance of mutual funds, thematic funds used to be things like financials or consumption or manufacturing or tech. And so these were broad-based sectors. And even when these kind of thematic funds existed, my view was that these should be the satellite part of the portfolio. So if 80% of the portfolio is some combination of the things that Ashish mentioned, multi-cap equity, fixed income, gold, silver, international, then 20% was allocated to these thematic funds, and that is well and good. The problem now, and where I really get nervous, is the extremely narrow thematic funds. And I always tell investors to do a couple of checks. Check one is exactly how narrow the sector is. So historically, we've seen retail investors, and in fact, all investors don't do the best job timing themes. I mean, last year, if you looked at the 10-year returns of PSU funds, it was single digits, less than 10%. You had a huge rally, a lot of funds were launched, and then, the numbers look great. So people don't do a great job timing, don't do very narrow themes, and where you do themes, stick to that satellite part, and then I think people should be okay.
Okay, all right. So I think that's a good way of approaching the whole thematic space if it is something that you want to dabble in. And I guess, Ashish, you want to add to that, because we always hear about this core and satellite approach, right? So right. Overall, would you, keep thematics in a portfolio? And if yes, you'd limit them to what percentage, and what themes are you convinced on?
See, thematics by definition are for a little more sophisticated investors. I mean, let's say you're bullish on a particular sector and you don't want to spend the time researching on stocks, then you can go and buy a thematic fund, right? Or if you're a contrarian investor and a particular theme is not done well for the last 3 to 5 years, then you could take a contrarian allocation to that particular thematic fund. So I believe that, a certain portion of the portfolio can go into thematics, but like Radhika mentioned, a broader theme always helps. So for example, a year back, I think pharma as a theme had not done too well, and we were messaging that this is a sector which is ripe for re-rating. And you could have gone and bought a pharma fund. And pharma is a much wider theme. Similarly, for example, IT services, digital is a much wider theme. And those stocks have underperformed until three months back. Most of these stocks had derated. And we continue to be bullish on that particular sector. So, you have a core portfolio which consists of flexi cap, mid cap, small cap funds. And then you probably have 20–30% where you're trying to also apply your expertise. So for example, if someone is working in the IT sector and you believe you know the IT sector extremely well and you want to apply that thought to markets, it's not a bad idea.